Hi guys, so I just wanted to talk to you about how I studied for my NCLEX, how I passed my NCLEX, and kind of some things I learned along the way. And I have some notes here, so if you see me reaching over like this, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So I used Uworld, and that was pretty much the only thing I used. So just kind of story of how it all started. I got Uworld back in February, and I graduated August 1st. I got it so that I had extra practice questions during Peds and OB, which was a super hard semester for me, so I wanted extra questions. So I bought the 6-month package. Came with like 2,000 or 2,500 questions and 2 assessments that are supposed to like predict how you're going to do in the NCLEX. So by the time I finished and took my test, I had about 500 questions left, so I did not get through all of them, which is not uncommon, I hear. So obviously my 6-month package expired, and so I extended it to the 3-month package. Again, and I still had my 2 assessments. I hadn't done anything with them. So I took my first assessment, my first Uworld assessment, a couple weeks after graduation, so about mid-August, and it told me I had a low chance of passing. So I was freaking out. I had felt confident about NCLEX because I'd always passed SEs. I'd always passed all my nursing school tests. So I was freaking out. I was like, okay, let's buy myself plenty of time, because at this point, I hadn't gotten my authorization to test yet, so I hadn't scheduled my exam. So when I did get that, I scheduled it for October 3rd. I was like, we're fine, we have plenty of time to study. Well then, at one of the DNP intensives, I was talking to a bunch of people, and they said take it as soon as you possibly can. So I moved my date up to September 18th. And then the week before that, I had orientation for my job, my nursing job. So it was super hard to study. On top of that, I had DNP homework. So about mid-August, I put together my NCLEX binder, and I'm going to go through it and show everybody what's in it and everything. And then, so I started putting that together. I did kind of a small content review. I took my assessment. I freaked out. And then I started doing about 100 Uworld questions a day, give or take. Some days I would do 100, and then I would skip a day. And then the next day I would do 165, and then I'd skip a day. And then the next day I would only do 50. But as long as I was kind of doing something each day, that was the best I could do at the time. So then I moved it up to September 18th. And so when I would do those questions after orientation a week before my NCLEX, I was doing questions, but I didn't really feel like I was retaining anything. So I would, up in the top right corner, you can mark a question for review. So I'd mark a question for review, and then I'd come back and study it. So at this point, I was testing in a week, and I hadn't really studied that much, and Uworld said I had a low chance of passing. So pretty much I was freaking out. So that weekend, before my test was on a Tuesday, and the Saturday and Sunday before, I just studied all day, locked myself in the room. I went through all of those mark for review questions that I knew I needed to study. I took notes like this, cardiac stuff from the rationales on Uworld, peds stuff, GI, drugs, this one was good, critical care stuff, fundamental stuff. So when I was making my test, I checked all the boxes and did 40 questions to warm up of every topic, every subject, everything. And then I would do tests of 75. And I was scoring probably an average of about 63% if you take all of the Uworld scores I ever did. So I felt like that was pretty good. So that Saturday, I took the second Uworld assessment, and it told me that I had a borderline chance of passing. So at that point, I'm taking my boards in 2 days, and so I'm super freaking out. I mean, I was like, I've been doing Uworld questions, I feel relatively confident, like I've gotten so much better at answering them, and yeah, it said I had a borderline chance of passing. And that was me sitting down with my whiteboard, no distractions, taking the assessment as if it were the NCLEX. So I had my freak out moment that Saturday. I went back to it Sunday, was taking notes on the rationales. Another thing I did was we use this website called The Point, which I'll link in the bottom bar. and it has an NCLEX adaptive test that you can take that puts you between 75 and 265 questions, and you it shuts off whenever it thinks you passed or failed. So I did that, and it shut off at 75. But I thought it was pretty easy, and nobody ever says the NCLEX is easy. So I took it with a grain of salt, but I was like, okay, at least that's something to put my mind at ease. So the whole week before, especially after getting that borderline result, it was hard for me to eat. I was dreaming about NCLEX every single night, but I refused to let anxiety be the thing that put me from passing the NCLEX. Like, if I didn't know the information, okay, that's one thing, but I'm not going to let anxiety not let me pass. So I just started, like, faking it in my head. And so some stuff about Uworld. Uworld helps a lot because it's the exact same setup. It's like a blue screen. The next button is in the same spot. You can minimize the questions in the upper right-hand corner. That's what I did because I did not want to know what question I was on. You can minimize the time. So when I took the NCLEX, I knew I didn't want to know what question I was on because I knew if I went past 75, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I failed, and I'd get all in my head about it. So when the pop-up came saying I was done, I immediately hit the button because I wanted to know what question I was on, and it said 76, which means that 75 was my final question. So I felt a huge wave of relief. I was like, I don't think I just completely failed that. You know, I felt decent because I watched another video, which I'll link in the bottom bar, with tips and kind of explaining how the NCLEX works. And it's designed where you kind of get every other one wrong. So I was going into it knowing that I wasn't going to do, you know, every single question right. I didn't really feel like questions were getting harder. I felt like they were all pretty tough from the beginning. About half of mine was select all that apply. And Uworld is set up basically the same, so that helped. I got really good at doing select all that apply questions. My tips on what to know is your lab values. Basic pharm, maybe not like every drug in the world, but just basic pharmacology. The patho that Uworld goes over, I feel like is super relevant to NCLEX. Prioritization questions. When those would come up on the test, I was like, yes, like I've got this because I did so many of those on Uworld, and the video I'm going to link in the bottom bar talks about prioritizing past just ABCs, and you know, that. So I would highly recommend watching that video because it really helped me. But overall, I would highly recommend Uworld, even though they told me I had a borderline chance of passing, and I passed in 75 questions. So I would highly recommend it. It's what a lot of my friends use to study, and I just think it's kind of the best study material out there. Just another couple little tips I had written down is just bring your ID and your keys to the testing center. Maybe bring like a banana or snack or something, but they make you lock everything up. They ask you like 100 times if you have a cell phone, so it's easier to just leave it in your car. And then don't wear like a ponytail on your wrists because they will make you take it off. They make you, you know, like roll up your sleeves and everything, empty out your pockets. I'm trying to think of what else. Take off your glasses. So I mean, they like super check you out. So just make it easier on yourself and just be super minimal with what you bring in because they're gonna make you lock everything up and ask you a bunch of questions anyways. So, but if you guys have any more questions, I hope that this helped. But feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram, which is linked in the bottom bar if you don't already follow me. So thank you guys for watching, and like I said, I hope it helped someone. Okay, so what's in my big NCLEX binder that I put together? I have got a little sheet over here with notes of stuff I still wanted to look up, a little cardiac thingy, a laminated little thing with all my lab values that I just threw together on Word real quick, and then fundamentals, all the concept maps and stuff I made. I took out PowerPoint slides that I thought were important, so like all the ones on fluid electrolyte stuff and ABGs, so I took those out of the notes that I had saved from the semester. Psych, same thing. notes, PowerPoints that were super important, my little mnemonics I use to memorize things, concept maps I made. So it's the same for kind of everyone. It's just notes I made and then notes that I took from PowerPoints that I had saved over the semesters. Same thing in OB. This is like a handout they gave us. Adult, I just threw this together because I kept getting Uworld questions on rule of nines and made that real quick from Uworld stuff and concept maps. So this was just kind of like a place to have everything. If I'm being honest, I did not really look at it or use it because there's just so much to know that you can't possibly put it all in a binder. So yeah, and then these are my notes from the Uworld rationales. Just super basic, jotted down what the rationale was and what I needed to take from it.